Here is the Crescendo Music Education Podcast, episode number 62. This podcast is being recorded on the lands of the Turrbal people. I acknowledge them as the traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. They were the first music makers on this land. Hi, I'm Debbie O'Shea, and in this episode of the Crescendo Music Education Podcast, I am lucky enough to speak to Jenny Moon. It's just a delightful conversation. I love how she speaks about signposts in her journey as a music educator conductor. Not highlights, but signposts. I think that's really special to think of them that way, and how she's completely herself when she's in a room with young people. Her advice to connect with something or find something that you love in repertoire that you do with your choirs. Oh, there's so much from this episode that you will love. Hello, and in this edition of the Crescendo Music Education Podcast, I have the delightful Jenny Moon. Hello, Jenny.
Oh, hello, Deb. How are you?
Me, fabulous. And all the more
Great.
fabulous for speaking to you.
And it's school holidays.
Oh, yay. Oh, it's so good. Mind you, that means for me working on my podcast and Crescendo. But yes, it is good. No alarms, my time. It's really good.
Now, but lucky for all of us that you do all of that in your holidays.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. We get
to share in that. We get to share in it too. So good.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to start off reading your bio. Okay, here we go. Because there will be a lot of people, it's their bad luck, but they
have no idea who I am.
Yeah, well, they might not know you yet. Okay, the people who do know you are saying, yes, let's hear from Jenny. Those people who don't know Jenny or don't know her background, and I don't fully know your background because I've only got to know you fairly recently. So this is going to be an interesting read for me. Here we go. Jenny Moon is a highly regarded choral conductor specialising in children's and youth choirs. A graduate of the Queensland Conservatorium of Music, Jenny is a passionate educator and advocate for choral music, and is a highly sought-after conductor, choral workshop presenter and adjudicator. She was a classroom music specialist for more than 30 years. Yes, that's the job.
I started when I was 12.
When you're 12, yeah, that's right. Don't do the maths, everyone. Working in several schools in Brisbane and on the Gold Coast. She is currently the Associate Artistic Director of the Voices of Birrallee, where she conducts their signature treble choir, Brisbane Birrallee Voices, and co-conducts the Birrallee Kids. She was, until very recently, Head of Choral and Vocal Studies at Hillcrest Christian College on the Gold Coast, where she developed and built a choral program of 12 choirs.
Yeah.
Wow. Crazy. Including four excellence choirs. Like, that's a lot, Jenny. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. I was a bit of a crazy person, 16 years ago. But anyway.
Okay, I'm sure we'll come up with how on earth you did that later on in the episode. All right, during her tenure with both organisations, Jenny has led international choral tours and achieved awards at international choral competitions, in addition to numerous national awards. Jenny has been guest conductor at Queensland Conservatorium State Honours Programs, Gondwana National Choral School, the Festival of Voices in Hobart, and at various choral festivals across Australia, as well as presenting regularly at workshops and professional development programs. Jenny has a passion for promoting Australian music, yes, to choirs and communities. She excels at engaging choristers in music across extensive styles to further develop their understanding of the world through the lens of text and music. Oh, that last bit's so well written. So those of you who don't know Jenny, there it is in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, that's me.
So, listening to that, Jenny, is there anything else you'd like to add to that summary?
Oh, gosh. Well, I'm a mum of two beautiful girls. I've got a 23-year-old and a 19-year-old. So I think that's pretty important because that's been one of my, you know, my big part of my life is being a mum. And now, of course, I'm the main caretaker of Bachi, the 5-year-old cavoodle. So that's a work in progress. But I think that bio is probably mostly about my last 10 years, I guess, where I've really decided that I wanted to pursue being a choral conductor. But I spent a long time being a classroom teacher, which I absolutely loved, being a classroom teacher in both high school and primary school. And then from that came the choral part, but I'm a piano player by instrument. So I was a piano major at the Con, very, very fortunate to work with the brilliant Leo Horowitz, and a violinist. And so that's my background. I come from a very musical family, and so started off as a piano player, violinist. I'm not a singer. I have had singing lessons, but I wasn't a singer. So that's my background, basically.
So when you were in the classroom, how did your passion for choir develop?
I think I just choir was always part of my life. I grew up in Cairns, I still look at the very funny photos of me in the Cairns Choral Society, this little tot with her white dress and her blue sash and white gloves, Deb, seriously, in Cairns, how hot is it in Cairns? And my little white gloves. So my mum and dad funnily enough, met in a choir in Rockhampton. My mother was the piano player of the musical union, very young, piano player. And my dad was a singer, and that's how they met. My dad can't read a note of music, not a note. But he's got the most extraordinary voice and incredible ear. I loved growing up with him because I'd come home and I'd go, Dad, what's this piece of music? And I'd sing something, and he'd go, oh, that's Tchaikovsky's Fourth, or that's the Elgar Enigma Variations, or that. Like he had the most incredible classical music collection, and he loved music, but couldn't read a note. And so they met in a choir. And then I think choir was just always kind of a part of my life. And I did it, I was in a choir at school, and I did a bit of choral at the Con. And there was just always this little niggle, I think, in the back of my mind, how much I loved working in that space. I didn't want to do string orchestras as my co-curricular. Whilst I was a string player, it didn't really float my boat to be, working in that arena. But standing in front of kids and sharing song just brought this incredible joy. And so I did a lot of singing in my secondary school classroom, lots of singing. And it just kind of developed out of that. And people came across my paths who kept saying, you should do this, you should do more of this, and pushing me into that area. So the two were very, very connected from a very, very early point in my teaching career. Yeah.
Well, we're very pleased you're in it. That's for sure. So
I'm very blessed to be in it.
Well, and I think that comes across too when you work with children, that you feel that you love it and you feel that you're fortunate to be there too. I think that comes across, that genuineness, that you're not just there because you have to be, you're there because you love it and you appreciate that you're there.
Yeah, I do love it. And you can't help but be joyous when and I'm sure string players and concert band conductors feel exactly the same, but when you go to a 7:00 rehearsal and you're exhausted, it's the middle of the week, and you go, why am I going to a primary school boys treble rehearsal at 7:00 on a Wednesday morning? Oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted and I've got a whole day of teaching. And you get into that room and there's just this joyous energy, and you sing and you laugh and you interact and you feel good. Because I sing when I sing in my rehearsals and model and demonstrate and do all of these things. You can't help but feel joyous, and it just sets you up for the rest of the day. So I always felt blessed, and I would always say, quite often to my choristers, when I had that overwhelming sense of it's the end of the term and I'm exhausted, but oh my gosh, I feel so good being here with you, I would say to them, I am so lucky to be able to do this, as I'm so lucky that I get to do this, because it's just joy. And I do really feel blessed.
So good. What would you consider to be the highlight or highlights of your journey so far as a musician, music educator, conductor? What would be a couple of high points?
Oh my gosh, I've had so many brilliant moments, and I've met so many incredible people, and I've enjoyed so many opportunities, that I don't think I can say any one particular has been a highlight. I actually think my journey as a musician has had very definite signposts, very definite. And I'm kind of a person who, pushes against what is expected. And it's funny, really, because I was never going to go to the con. I actually had said to my mother, so my two sisters and my mother had gone to the con before me, and there's no way that I'm going to be seen dead at the conservatorium, Ugh. I'd done my A Mus A on piano in grade 11. So I ticked the box. I went, right, tick the box. I've done it. I've seen it through. My parents have been so supportive of giving me an education, but that's it. I'm done. I'm going to just concentrate. And I actually wanted to do law. Law was where I was heading. Yeah. And I got to grade 12 and I was I was working towards that. And it got to the point where I had to fill out my QTAC form. And I suddenly had this moment of, oh my goodness, what if I don't get into law? What's my backup plan here? This is the 80s, Deb.
Mm-hmm.
I had to have a backup plan. And so I said to my mother, oh, look, I'm just going to put the con down for an audition, as, I better just put something down. And she, of course, was just, but you wouldn't be seen dead there. I'm like, oh, well, I don't really want to go, but I better have a plan. And of course, that then sent my mother and my piano teacher into this spin, because whilst I was working towards an Almus program that I would never, ever do, I didn't really have anything to audition with. And so they were just like, I went to the audition at the con, and I went in really not prepared very well. Like I should have been better prepared. And I kind of walked in with this attitude of, oh, look, if it's to be, and if I don't, and I walked out of my audition, Deb, and I burst into tears. The first thing I did, I shut the door and I cried and cried. And my mother was like, what happened? And I said, oh my gosh, I've blown it. I've blown it. I'm not going to get in. She said, but you don't want to go here. I said, I do. I've made a mistake. Like, I can't think of not being here. And it was just that moment of, what were you thinking, And it was just, wow. And fortunately, I did get in. And that was the turning point where I was like, why are you resisting? Why are you resisting just because everybody else is doing it, or your family? I have no idea. But it was this moment of, no, actually, this is what you want to do. You want to be a muso. So whilst it's probably not a highlight to burst into tears after your audition, it certainly was a real moment in my journey that signposted that this is actually where you need to be. And so grateful that happened. And then I guess there's been other moments as an educator, music educator. I think the biggest turning point for me was when I was a high school teacher, high school music teacher. And once again, had said, no, never going to be a primary school teacher. I can't do it. I just don't have the patience. And I want to teach Stravinsky to my kids, and I want to have these, And then I became a primary school teacher when my daughters were young, because I thought, yeah, I really want to know what it's like to be a teacher at that age, So I became a primary school teacher in 2006 and loved it. Absolutely loved it. Never thought I would love it as much. And that introduced me to the young voice, because I heard children singing, and I'd always been surrounded by mostly high school choirs, And then I just fell in love with that sound, and that moment where they find their singing voice, and you go, wow, yeah, that's cool. So as an educator, that was probably a moment of another signpost for me. That was a signpost to say, hang on a minute, you've got a whole realm of things here that you've just, you haven't even explored yet. And yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
And
And then
no, go
yeah.
on. I was just going to say the magic of working with young people. I mean, I know I'm biased, but like this is where their attitudes and foundations are set. You know,
Yeah.
it's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go
And
on.
I
What
think
was your next one?
they just give you so much, and they're so brave, and they're willing to do anything. And and the other thing is, I was completely myself in that room with young kids. You can do anything that you feel, you've just got to get rid of that energy. You just get rid of it. And I loved being in that. I loved being in that space for the time I was in there. And then I think chorally, my biggest moment where I suddenly went, yeah, this is what you want to do. And you're going to laugh here, because you're going to say, yeah, that's probably not a highlight, Jen. It was 1990, beginning of 1999, and I went out to the summer school that Guy Jansen used to run out at the uni. Do you remember those schools? Mm-hmm. Rodney Eichenberg was out that year, I think. Anyway, it was summer school, and I went out to do choral conducting with some friends and colleagues from uni, actually. And I ended up being in the tutorial group with Karen Grills from New Zealand. She was my lecturer. Well, the first lesson I had with her, she scared me, like, but in a good way, in such a good way. I was in awe of what she wanted to say to me. And we connected, and she saw something and encouraged me, and sort of said, well, have you ever thought of doing, more study? Why don't you come over and, you could study a master's. I was 10 weeks pregnant with my first baby, and I had to keep leaving her lectures and things to go and be sick because I had such bad morning sickness. No. It was like, oh my gosh, the timing of, I'm pregnant with my first baby, and I could think of nothing better than jumping over to New Zealand and studying with Karen. And, I was just this moment of, oh my gosh, I love this. I really love what I'm doing here. So that was the turning point for me. I guess the signpost was then to say, yeah, you really love doing this. And that was probably that highlight, if it's a highlight,
Yeah. Did you
didn't
end
feel
up
like
going...
a highlight at the time?
No, I bet. Too many visits to the toilet. But did you end up going to New Zealand at all?
Oh, look, I've been to New Zealand on holidays, but I didn't get to go and study because, then I gave up my teaching job at John Paul. I resigned from John Paul to be a mum because I just was like, I can't juggle both. I could never see me juggling the job I had at John Paul College and being a mum. And I just thought, this is a period in my time where I just want to do the mum thing. Didn't last very long because I was like, oh, I'm not a stay-at-home mum. And, that's where my family came in. Very importantly, my mother came in and kind of said, oh, for goodness sake, let me look after Kate and go back to work and, do what you need to do because that's where you're happy. And, yeah, but no, I never got to do it, but never mind.
Well, whatever your journey was, we're just happy because it's brought you to where you are now.
Yeah, it took me a bit longer to get there, but I got there in the end.
Yes, exactly.
I haven't got there yet. I'm still learning.
well, nobody ever gets there. That's the joy of this life, and being in education and in music. The journey is never ending. And I think if you come to terms with that and enjoy the ride, then you're there, aren't you?
I totally agree. And I say to kids and audiences all the time, singing is a journey. It's something you can do until you draw your last breath. Just do it forever. Do it forever. So yeah. So yeah, they're my highlights.
Oh, I love it. And I do love the word signpost. I think that's very powerful because otherwise, I guess highlight is making you make value judgments, but signpost, that's very powerful. Thank you. I might borrow that one. Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. The next point that I like to come to is about gratitude. And I was just wondering if
Yeah.
you had any comments about in that
Oh,
field, personal, professional, people. I think some of those signposts, as you've already mentioned, are hooked on various people.
yeah.
But just generally, if you were asked, for what are you most grateful?
Well, this year I am most grateful for the fact that our COVID restrictions have lifted. Like, I'm so grateful every day that this year, that things are starting to come back. And because I'm going to be honest, the last 3 years has been incredibly tough, as you would know. If anyone said to me 5 years ago, 5 years ago, we were traveling to France to do our Anzac services and things that we had a contract with the DVA with Faure. So here I was singing internationally with young people every year for 5 years. It was incredible. So that whole international thing, if you'd have told me when I was doing that 5 years ago that choral singing would be shut down completely by a virus, I would have just looked at you and gone, you've got to be kidding. No one imagined. And it took a huge toll. And I'm so grateful that we're back singing again, because choral singing is about community. You can't do it on a Zoom. You have to be with people. That's what it is. It's community. So I'm so grateful every day that I go, yes, we've got concerts and I've got rehearsals and I'm so grateful for that. And particularly this year, because I'm feeling like we are getting back. We've still got a long way to go, and we're all rebuilding. We're all rebuilding choirs all around the world, but we're able to actually do what we do, and the opportunities are there. So I'm grateful for that. I'm incredibly grateful that I've always managed to have mentors in my life who really have walked beside me. I feel really grateful for that. I've had great principals. My very first head of department, when I was a first year teacher, made an enormous impact on me. He was the head of arts, but he was drama based, and he was just the most encouraging man. And he was fantastic. He was incredibly talented, and he loved curriculum, but he loved the arts, all of the arts, music, drama, dance, and he just literally nurtured me in the time that I worked with him, and opened up so many opportunities, and I'm incredibly grateful that he was my first head of department. I had other people, Peter Ingram had just come back from working with Rodney Eichenberg and doing his master's. When I met Peter in my third year of teaching, Peter came and worked at John Paul College. And he was, really instrumental in coming and saying, come on, you need to start doing something chorally. I was playing for the school choirs because I was the accompanist, etc. But Pete was the one who probably just said, come on, it's time, and pushed me and said, let's start. What do you want? What sort of choir do you want to do, Jen? We'll create one for you. We'll create a choir, which we did. We created this female chorus, and we did, jazz and a whole lot of different things. But he created a choir called Female Chorus so that I could start exploring. And so I was very lucky to have those people. And, Julie Christensen in 2009 rang me and said, would you be interested in coming on board as a conductor at Faure? And I was just, oh my goodness, yes, I would absolutely love to. And Julie has been, such an important part of my journey since 2009, really. And she just opened up so many doors to her network. She's got the most incredible network all over the world. And she is the most giving, collaborative person, and, now I get to work with Paul every week. And I have great relationships with so many composers that Julie and Paul have introduced me to. And yeah, the whole network of choral people, and having those people walk beside me, I guess. So I think I'm just, I feel very, very blessed and lucky that I've been mentored by so many people who just give. And so I really feel that now that's what I want to do as well, and give as much as I can and mentor young people. And so that's probably what I'm grateful for, is people coming in my path. And of course, my incredible family, from my mum, who looked after my kids so I could travel around the world, and my husband, and who just, he's a scientist. I'm a musician, and same, never said no to the fact that I'm going to Korea for 10 days with the choir, and you've got to look after the kids, and absolutely whatever. So my family has been really incredibly supportive of me going off and doing what I wanted to do, So I think that's my gratitude, is people who just give. I'm very lucky they've been in my life.
And we're very lucky they've been in your life so that you can now give. Because, well, I should have said this at the beginning, that we had you to come out to our school to do a workshop day with our choirs.
Yeah.
Very fortunate, as I've said in previous episodes of the podcast. And in fact, I've even had a chat with Catherine Really, who is our conductor. I mean, imagine working at a school where Catherine Really is your conductor. I mean, so we're really lucky, but we like to be able to, and we actually did it partly because of COVID. And when we were coming out of COVID, we wanted to provide something when the competitions hadn't started up properly, and so we thought, let's have a workshop. And we've had Paul Holly out, and we've had you out to work with all of the kids, and it's just a joy to watch you and to see you give back to the children and the conductors that are watching you, all soaking up your goodness. So thank you for and I know you've done workshops at schools for my colleagues as well, and everyone speaks very highly of you. So anyone who's in I don't know how far you would travel. Just ask. Just ask Jenny. If you want a good workshop person, contact Jenny. Okay, she's fabulous.
I love it. I love going into those environments with new faces, and you just go in and the hard work's being done, really, and you just kind of go and experiment and like I love that. I love that challenge, and I love meeting new people, and I love working with conductors, and it's fun. It's fun.
It is. Well, it's good you think it's fun, but it is a whole new set of skills, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. For sure. It keeps you on your toes,
You've got to be so flexible, haven't you?
You do have to be flexible.
Yeah, new sea of faces, new adults that have worked with them before, what's going to work, so you do it so well. And so
I think you've just got to go in with no predetermined decisions or anything. You very quickly need to go and figure out what it is that you've got to do, and and be flexible and open, to anything, and know that you're not going to accomplish everything in one little amount of time or one short thing, but you just want to be engaging and hopefully give them a different way of looking at something, perhaps. And sometimes, I say exactly the same things that conductors are saying to their kids, but I just say it in a different way, or they've heard it and they just need one more person to say it. And you can see the look on their faces as they look at their conductor and go, I think we've heard that before, we've heard that before. But it's fun. I love it.
Yes. All right. I would love to talk to you briefly about how it felt because you've fairly recently stopped the teaching gig, which gives you that security of you've got the pay packet, you've got the,
superannuation.
Yes, as much as you love the conducting, like tell us about taking that big leap.
Yeah, it is a huge leap,
Mm.
because, well, it's not only the security, like the security of, your teaching salary and your sick pay and your long service leave and your superannuation, all of that. That's a massive security thing. But it's also, I guess, the security of knowing that you're in a system. So, you've got your system of hierarchy, you've got your system of a timetable, you've got it's structured. It's very structured. And you know that you're going to go to school every day, and you've got your colleagues who are going to be able to support you when you're not having such a great day, or you're trying to juggle things, and someone will jump in and say, hey, I'll take that class for you. Let me take that class for you. You've got all of that support in a school, and you've got community. You've got your beautiful kids and your beautiful colleagues and your beautiful parents. You've got this community, and it's relational. And I'm a very relational person.
Mm-hmm.
That's who I am. I will always try to make sure that relationship with anyone is always kept intact. So in a school environment, it's all there, isn't it?
Mm.
And so when you leave, all of a sudden it's not there anymore. And the ongoing relationship with the kids and with it is what I miss the most. I still miss it. I miss that feeding into a child's life and seeing them grow, and you teach them in grade 2, and then they're in tears on their last day of school as they're about to go and embark on missing their community, and you've watched them and you've been part of that. That's hard to give up. So it took me a long time, Deb, to be honest. It took me a long time to make the decision, and I was transitioning for quite some time. I came out of the classroom full time quite a long time ago, and I was kind of doing a bit of teaching with some choral work at school, and then I went part-time. I was very lucky that my principal at the Gold Coast allowed me to go part-time, and I was doing some work at Birraleigh and doing commuting, and I was able to go off and do sheps and festivals, because I had that support. So I was kind of in a transition, and it took me 2 lots of long service leave. Actually, it took me two goes before I realized, no, it's time. It's actually time for you to go and try and do this freelance thing. And I'm still exploring it. I'm still finding it difficult to get out of the school system and realize that, oh my goodness, there are so many things that you could be doing. You've just got to make it happen, I guess. And I'm living with that every day. I still have this huge passion to use music for healing. And there are so many things I want to do with that. There are so many opportunities of forming choirs and doing work with communities through singing for healing, that I'm yet to explore, because I'm still in that I've got to bring in an income. So where I can, I'm doing the freelance work that I guess that pays the bills or helps to pay the bills. So I'm still in that kind of cycle of, I've got to do that. But I still have this huge realm that I can't wait to dig into creatively and explore. So that's exciting. But yeah, big leap, big leap. And it's going well so far. It's going okay. So yeah, I'm just in my baby moments of it though. So I had to do it. Because the body was starting to, tell me, if you're going to do it, you've got to do it now, because the next 10 years, your body's going to not let you go and do 3 days of workshops with groups, because it's fatiguing. It's hard on your body and on your brain. It's very mentally fatiguing, but it's physically, you do 3 whole day workshops, and my body's just like, oh my goodness, my hips not so good, and my calves are hurting.
No, look,
So
it's exhausting.
it is
Absolutely
exhausting.
exhausting. I've not done as much, but I did a few years when I went to Rockhampton and did their big choral thing, and it was like 3 days, and you work all day with literally hundreds of children, and then there'd be a concert at night. I'd just say, and I was younger then. Okay. And it was just, my motel room was not far away. I'll be back. And I just literally set an alarm and just fell on the bed and slept so that I could keep going that night. It is one of the most exhausting, like you said, it's the mental exhaustion on top of the physical exhaustion.
Yeah, you are on the whole time, and you're processing, and you're trying to decide, what do I leave, what do I work on, and all the time you just, your ears are in play, and it's fantastic. I love it. I love the challenge, and I find it incredibly exciting, but it's fatiguing, so I just figured I had this but short window of time where physically and mentally I was able to still be able to keep up and keep relevant to the kids too. That's very much on my mind, is that I always want to be relevant to where they're at, and it has to have context for them. And so, I just thought, well, it's now or never. I'm just going to have to do it. And I'm in a fortunate position that, my husband still works, and so I don't feel quite as nervous. But it is challenging financially. It's challenging in Australia. It's not so challenging in the States, where the choral thing works completely differently in the States. But I don't regret it. I don't regret it. As I say, I really still miss the kids, and I miss my parents, and I miss community. And I have my beautiful Birrelly community, but it's a lot smaller. And whilst I love my choristers, I see them but once a week. I love when we do Christmas events, when we do Spirit of Christmas, and I see them all week, and you really get to know them a lot better. But that's what I miss the most about school. Yeah.
Oh, well, we're looking forward to seeing where you go, making those great creative decisions. That's exciting.
It is exciting. Hey.
Yes. Oh, I'm looking forward. You've got me excited now. Okay. Choral pieces, because people who are listening who take choirs, they're going, oh, I wonder what Jenny's favourite pieces are. Because I'm sure like your favourite pieces would change, obviously. And when you get to work on something, get to know it and love it. But what would you have, just some general pieces that are your go-to, or your
my favorite pieces are the pieces I'm working on at the moment.
okay.
My favorite choral pieces are the pieces that I'm working on at the moment, and I love all the choices that I make, because I make that a point. If I don't love it, I don't really work it with my choirs. I have to find something in it that I love. And they're my favorite pieces at the moment, because I explore them, and the more I explore the phrasing and the text and the nuances, and how I can make it more beautiful, and how we can shape it together, and how we make it music, that's why it's my favorite. And there are pieces I will come back to, that I've done before, and then you go, oh, I loved this piece. And interestingly enough, quite often I'll do something completely different with it, and I go, oh, I'm going to explore this in a different tempo, or I'm going to phrase it differently, and then I go, oh, I wish I'd have done that the first time, but I've grown as a musician. I've grown, and I've learnt, and I've developed different ideas and skills, etc. So I think my favorite pieces are the ones I'm working on. I think if I had to say my favorite choral work, or the work that I was just a moment for me, is probably Faure's Requiem. Is just, for me, that's it. And I've always said for a long, long time, I really hope that a choir will come and sing that at my funeral. And I've said it, but it was something that I performed, and as soon as I performed it, I just was like, wow.
Did you conduct it or sing in it?
No. I sang in it. I sang in it when I was at the con, and I just was like, oh, I love this. I loved it. And so I think if I had to say it's probably my favorite choral work. But yeah, I love lots and lots of different styles of choral music, lots. But there's always a moment where I go, yeah, that's my moment. That's why I love it. There'll be something in it, and that's why I choose to do it. And I think that's really important, because if I don't love it, the kids are going to know that I don't love it, and it can be just a 16 bar unison piece that I just go, oh, that is so fun. I love that. I can have so much fun with that. Or, oh, I can't wait to just introduce that beautiful interval to them. Or it can be, when I was traveling to France with kids to do the Anzac services, I'll never forget Stephen Paulus's the Road Home. And because I was searching for music that we could sing in the pre-service and at churches, etc., it just was a moment of, I have to do this piece with these young people. It was just something that I was like, yeah, I've got to do it, and it just resonated with me at the time, because it had the context of where I was going, and I wanted the kids to relate to it, and because they were going to be singing it at a dawn service on the Western Front, I just knew that we could tap into it and we could connect. Because that's the thing with choral music, you have to get the connection, because we're the only instrumentalists that get text. We get words. We're so lucky. So yeah, I'm sorry that I haven't got it my top 10, but yeah, I think that's the thing. If you love it and you think there's something in there that you can connect with your choristers, then do it.
I think that's more valuable than a top 10. I think what you said is very profound.
Thanks. And there's always my favorite choirs. I've got favorite choirs that, I always go
I
and
never thought to ask that. Oh, favorite choirs.
What they're doing,
and you keep an eye on them and steal their repertoire. It's not stealing.
I subscribe to their YouTubes, and you go, I wonder what they're doing. I mean, it's been a bit quiet in the last few years, can I tell you? But yeah, I love YouTube. I love YouTube, because you go, oh, I wonder what they did in their last tour, or so yeah.
And it can also, YouTube can be really interesting to see how other conductors have interpreted pieces.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's really valuable tool for musicians to be able to go and say, look, I've got a score in front of me, but it's, it's got a list of easy and everything. And, I wonder, what it sounds like in a church or in a big auditorium, or oh my goodness, Rollo Dilworth's got 400 people in front of him, and this piece sounds fantastic. And then you listen to the same piece and it's only got 16, and you go, oh, okay, well, hang on a minute. It's learning those sort of things for people who are, not even just starting out, but you suddenly hear it and you go, yeah, it's brilliant with 400, but I can't pull that off. I'm not going to pull that off to the same extent with a group of 16 singers. And so yeah.
Love it. Great information and thoughts. I love that. Composers, you were talking about earlier, I think in your bio, you even talked about promoting that you love Australian music. It's really important, because it is tough to make a living as an Australian composer.
Absolutely, it is.
So yeah, tell us again about composers and Australian composers particularly. What are your thoughts?
I believe that we have the best composers in the world. I believe that. I think we are so lucky. We are so incredibly lucky. And why do I love Australian composers so much? I love them because they are writing from a place of being an Australian. And when you're talking text and you're talking about what our choristers are experiencing and what they're doing, then that's really, really important to me. It's important to me that, that our kids know about the Emu War. Kath really wrote about the Emu War. Well, you know, it's like we need to teach our kids about that.
Well,
It's
we
part
do.
of our
Can I say,
history.
I didn't know about the Emu War
Neither did I.
until
Neither did I.
Catherine Lee's composition. And I'm going, what an amazing story. Can I say, just from my point of view, one of the things that I think Australian composers have is that, as it, warning, I'm going to do a bit of a generalization alert here, but I believe many of them are great storytellers.
Yes, I agree with you. I
Mm.
think they're fantastic storytellers, and they get the whole thing about making it relevant. And we're so isolated. We're very isolated. And here we have a tradition, chorally, we're a European tradition, right? But singing about snow in winter at Christmas time is not relevant to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think particularly with young children, particularly, it's important that we ground them in the Australian landscape. And that's where we live. And if we're going to talk about music being relevant, and if we're going to talk about making sure that our children are singing within context, then it's really important that it's about where they live and our history. And it's we're just so lucky. We are so lucky to have brilliant composers. I admire every single one of them because, as you say, it's a very difficult way of earning a living. But you just, I look around and see new composers all of the time, and I hope that we keep encouraging new composers because it's very important. And yeah, I love exploring anything that any composer will throw my way. I love it. I think we're just really lucky. And why go elsewhere when you've got brilliance on your doorstep? I mean, I think it's really important. There are things in the choral canon that you do need to say, I do want my high school choir to learn Mozart's Ave Verum. I think that's important. I think it's important that we sing, music of different genres and different languages. I'm not saying that we shouldn't. We have to, because that's part of being inclusive. We have to understand everybody's tradition. We do. And I'm not saying that we disregard that. It's a very important part, because also we have a responsibility to make sure that we are educating our choristers in different genres and different languages and different musical idioms and large works and small works. But I think I'm talking from my educator's hat here now when I'm talking about school children, primary and even secondary, that it's important to make sure that we're not discounting what we've got right under our nose, and yeah, I'm very passionate about Australian composition, and it's great writing.
I could not agree more. Very powerful. I believe you've started dabbling a little yourself.
Yeah, dabbling is the word. Yeah, so this is very confronting, trying to compose. It came out of, look, I haven't got a lot of compositions. They're all unison. At the moment, I am just writing unison music, and it's all pretty much Peter 3, because I see a real demand for, good unison music that is relevant to our kids. And a couple of years ago, a gecko fell on my head one night while I was having dinner. Like, it literally fell on my head and it just slid down, and I don't like geckos. And I remember, I'm still going like this. And a colleague had sort of said to me, Jen, my grade 2s and grade 3s are ripping through the repertoire. Like, they're just going through repertoire. No, I can't keep up. This was at the school I was at. And please, I need some more. And I need some more. I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to come up with something. So the gecko had fallen in my head on the Friday night. And on Saturday morning, I got up and thought, right, you're going to have to write a song, because, Nerida needs a piece this week, so what are you going to do? You're just going to have to write something. So I wrote Mr. Gecko, and and she's like, I love it, it's great, and it was from personal experience. So I wrote a couple of more things that, you know, same situation where she'd come to me and say, I can't find a piece for the storybook day. I can't find something. Can you just write something for storybook day for me, please? And, you know, I'll do 45 minutes of your marking if you go and write me something. I'm like, deal. So it kind of came out of a, oh, please, can you have a go? Because I can't find something. So anyway, so yeah, I've dabbled a little bit, and I've just written something for Deb Daly. Actually, Deb Daly she said, can you please write me something that I can use with a parachute, Jen?
Okay. You'll have to share.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And she said, can you write me something? I said, okay, all right. Yeah, I can do that, Deb. And, you know, I just, you know, Deb's an amazing, I call her Saint Deb, by the way, because what she does with those kids is incredible. I could never do it. So I had to go and write something because Deb needed it, you know, and so I put my head down and went, all right, let's go. So, yeah, so I've started to dabble in that. And, you know, I reach out to some people. I've got a few colleagues who, hey, can you give me some hand with this text? This is kind of the idea I want, but I don't want complete sentences. And here's a couple of ideas. And what do you think? And, you know, Josh got back to me. Josh helped me write the words for Little Waves and said, here, what do you think of this? And I'm like, love it. Let's go with that. And I've just written another piece actually for our we've got a Young Voices Festival coming up in June. We've reignited our Young Voices Festival. So we couldn't find a massed piece. And I said, okay, I'll just have a go of writing something. So I wrote that, and then I went to Katie Littlewood and said, right, Katie, how do you feel about writing a piano accompaniment for me? You know, and she's like, sure, love to. So that's been fun too, is reaching out and saying, well, here's what I want. And like, you know, you're a great piano accompanist and musician. Do you want to have a go at doing this? And Kate said, yeah. And going to Josh and saying, hey, Josh, you love writing text, and I'm not great at writing text, but I've got an idea of what I want to do. Will you have a play at this? And yeah, sure. And so I love that part too, of collaborating and saying to people, you know, let's try and do this. So that's been fun. And I get bored a bit easily and quickly, Deb, sometimes, and I get to that point where I go, all right, this is, you know, let's keep moving, sort of thing. So look, it's but a small portfolio of compositions, but it's something that I'm having fun with. So, you know, time will tell. Time will tell if that goes any further.
The best musicians have to write music for the youngest children. It's not, I think that some people make the mistake of saying, oh, it's just for little kids, that's easy to do. No, it's not easy. And a beautiful unison melody is just as difficult as writing, you know, 6-part harmony. I really think that beautiful unison for young children, like you've actually chosen something quite difficult to do, but important.
You have to really think about it. You have to really think about what is important, and, you know, where it sits, and that's why I was kind of, when I wrote Little Waves, I said to Josh, I don't want sentences. I don't want long sentences. I just want little ideas, because Deb wanted the parachute and the things that the parachute can do and hiding under it. So we've got a line in there about, you know, hiding under a shell and the storm comes and all sorts of things. Because when I actually like, what am I going to write about a parachute? And then I actually decided I'd write about waves instead, and that the parachute would work in with beautiful waves and a storm and all sorts of things. But it is tricky. It is really tricky, because you have to think, are they going to be able to do this? Can I put in something there that's just going to extend what they might be able to do, but not make it so that it, you know, it becomes frustrating for the conductor to try and, you know, you've got to think about it really carefully, because you want it to be successful and within their grasp because of the age. So yeah, no, it's fun. It is fun, but Anyway, watch this space.
I think that's going to be amazing. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to write that down to explore Jenny's pieces. That sounds fabulous. We're looking forward to that. All right. We are now getting up to the nuggets of fabulous.
The nuggets of fabulous. All right. Well, look, my nuggets are fabulous. I think for me, we touched on this before about being flexible. So my nuggets are fabulous from my point of view, from a workshop, being a workshop presenter and being a conductor. Learn to read your room. You need to learn to read the room. It's a skill, but it's very important because we need to engage with our choristers and we need to engage with our students, and being able to see where they're at a particular time for me is really important. I need to read their energy. I need to see, you know when you get to a point where you think you've got to let this go, you actually have to let it go, because if you keep trying to, sometimes you've got to just let go and go, I'm not
Don't
going to be
flog
able
the
to.
dead horse. Don't flog
That's
the dead
exactly
horse.
right. And so by doing that, you have to go in with a level of flexibility, and being flexible is also something that it comes with experience, doesn't it, really? Because I think when you're a first year teacher, you're so worried about, how long have I got, and I've got to teach this much, and I've got to get them ready for this exam, and I've got to cater for this differentiated learning at the start. Like, you're just so, I think, locked in. That's the word for it, because you feel you've got to stick to a plan. And I think it's also confidence. You also, when you get more confident about your own ability and knowing that it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. Nothing's going to be that diabolical. We've all had situations where things have gone off the rails in a performance. Like, so be it. That's what happens. That's music. But I think reading your rehearsal, or reading the room, reading what's there and being able to adapt and being flexible, I think that's very important. Keeping it fresh is very important. When I start to feel that I'm not feeling it, I'm like, oh man, I've got to write my warm-ups now for tonight. And I'm just like, oh, then I actually go and look for something new. Go and look for something new. Go and dig out, my red book. I've got a red book. I've got a little red book of all these little warm-ups and games and sort of things that I've gathered over the years from different people. Or I jump on YouTube, or I'm so lucky. I work with Justine Faure twice a week.
Beautiful.
I know. How lucky am I? My partner in crime is Justine, and she's so brilliant. She's just so brilliant. And there's another blessing I have in my life, is working with Jay. But I'll go to Jay. Jay, will you do the warm-ups tonight? And she's like, sure, no problem. And I watch what Jay brings and just go, oh my goodness, you just, she just comes up with the most incredible things. And so that you've got to keep fresh. You've got to be excited about it. I love introducing a new warm-up. It's fun. And I think that's important. If you got to find some fun in it. So yeah, I think they're my nuggets. I think it's, if you love it and you're excited about it, then your kids will love it too, because they'll see your excitement. And you might have to convince some of the older, some of my teenagers, it takes a little bit when I go and do something a little bit that they go, oh, no, I'm a bit too cool for school for that. And I go, no, you're not. You're not too cool. Just do it. And they actually do it. And they go, yeah, that was fun.
Yep.
That actually was fun. You're never too old to play To Stop the Train, or do This Old Man. You're never too old to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's it. My nuggets would be: read the room, be prepared to change it up. So be flexible, keep it fresh, and have fun. And I think if you do that, you've got success, because you're engaging and you feel good. Yeah, they're my nuggets.
I love your nuggets. Okay, I'm going to steer us to advocacy.
Yes, very important.
It's vital, and we just
It
need
is.
to do more of it, all of us. So,
Yes.
what sort of advice do you have for us? So, it could be specifically about singing and choir if you
Mhm.
wish, or it could be more broader for music educators, whatever
Yep.
ideas for anyone working in this field. Do you have some suggestions to help us around advocacy?
Yes, I do. I think it's really, really important that we know what we're talking about. I think it's important that we can substantiate any conversation that we have. And, we are so incredibly lucky to have Dr. Anita Collins. We had Richard Gill, now we've got Anita, who provides, if you don't follow Anita and Bigger Better Brains on social media, anyone who's listening, you need to do it straight away. Get onto their newsletter list, because they give nuggets all the time, little, substantiated research, articles, ways to just get people to understand how important music is. Singing is our first language. Say that to people and they look at you. Talk about the statistics of the extraordinary things that happen when people are suffering from dementia or stroke, yet they can sing and remember things that they learnt from an early age. So I think it's important to be able to substantiate what you're going to talk about, and the research is all there. So read it and grab it. I also believe, I think there's, we've got people who are saying and advocating for us through research and general education, but we've got parents and principals and other teachers right here every time they walk into one of our concerts or one of our rehearsals.
Mm-hmm.
So my thing would be, make them do it. Get them to do it. Get them to come to a rehearsal and do some warm-ups where the kids are doing coordination and say, would you like to come to a rehearsal in the morning? How good did you feel after that? Do this warm-up with us. When you have a concert, get the parents to do a warm-up or teach them a sing-along or something fun. And I know that can be frightening. I know it can be frightening. But wherever I can, I always try to involve the audience into understanding what their children are doing. And I don't necessarily go down the talking, do you know that when your child comes to, this is the parts of the brain that they're using, da, 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 da. I just go, on your feet, let's go, let's sing, let's do this activity, or, and get them to do it. And I know you'll feel resistance, but if you feel brave enough, you can, I'll quite sometimes say, oh, see, I've got a couple of non-believers out there. Come on, let's go. And do I need to get the house lights up on you? Do we need to? And, in a little bit of jest, but, I always think that it's coming from a place that they feel uncomfortable, and you've got to make them feel comfortable. So my advocacy as a choral conductor is to involve people in the doing, get them to sing, get them to have fun, tell them that you've had these children for a day's workshop, and by the way, they've learnt 4 new pieces, and this is what they've done today. That's pretty incredible. And I always say to my kids, do you realize how what you've just done in this 45 minutes has been this. And if anyone tells you that singing is, boring, or it's, who singing's, not, oh, hang on a minute. Actually, it's a physical workout and a mental workout and an intellectual workout and a coordination workout. And these are the skills. And I have to know what I'm singing, what words, what's the rhythm. My ear has to say it's out of tune. My brain has to fix it. I've got to put movement with it. I've got to know what the person next to me is doing. We've all got to do the same thing at the same time. All of these things are going on in a song. So don't forget that all of these skills, guys, you're bringing to my room every time you sing. So you're having just a bigger workout as a soccer game or playing chess, or I never tried to be divisive in what I'm doing. I don't say this one thing is better, but I'm just educating them, because they'll just think we're coming and singing, unless we say, no, it's not just the singing. It's actually not just the singing. It's all of these things around it. And by the way, there's also the community making. That person next to you in choir is your buddy in the playground, or when you're walking, this is the thing I used to love, is that whole community. You're empathizing and you're relating and you're learning about another culture because the person next to you's come from a different background or whatever. Well, we learn that when we're in a choir and an ensemble. So I think for me, the advocacy is, what can I do to get others to do what we do, so they can understand it and feel it and understand why their kid comes bouncing out of the room after choir, or why they've jumped off the stage at the end of a concert so proud of themselves and so excited, and their parents go, I understand, because I felt but a little bit of that joy and accomplishment, so yeah, I think that's my tip for advocacy as musicians and choristers. If you can do it, that'd be great.
Thank you. That's a great tip. And all of us at some point has some sort of concerts, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that's fabulous. And we're coming to the end, even though I think there's been so many powerful things you've already said. I still like to finish with a little summary of a chance for you to get on your soapbox and tell the world something that you think is really important to say.
Yeah. I think we've touched on it. Don't ever stop learning. Don't ever stop grabbing ideas, advice, from anyone. My whole life, I feel like I've just been influenced by so many people, and I'm still, in awe of so many people that I think if you can just always keep your mind very open to learning, just learning, and ask people for help, ask them for guidance, email someone and say, hey, look, I'm just wondering, I'm having a little bit of difficulty with something. Can you help me? Having people come in and I love people coming and listening to my rehearsals and saying, did you hear that? Or did you hear that? Or, and coming in with a different, they're coming in cold, and you've worked this same piece for ages, and they hear something completely different and say, hey, there's something not quite right there, or whatever. I loved that. Some people would probably find that a little bit confronting. I love it. I love people coming in and hearing and giving suggestions and ideas and things like that. So yeah, I think that's it. Don't ever be afraid to ask for help. Don't ever be closed to other ideas, or just keep learning. Keep learning. That's my biggest thing, I think.
I love that. And Jenny Boone, it has been a delight. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
No, thank you for asking me to talk with you. It's been great.
We have a lot to learn from you, and you're generous.
No, I'm not sure of that.
And no, we absolutely have, and you're generous enough to share. So thank you, and until next
time. My pleasure, Deb.
Farewell.
Bye. Enjoy the last part of your holidays.
Thanks. As we know, laughter relieves stress. Don't lose sight of the funny side of life. I used to have a fear of hurdles, but I got over it. Thank you so much for watching our Crescendo Music Education podcast. For more information about all things crescendo, including membership and music education resources, visit us at crescendo.com.au. Don't forget to like and subscribe.